Howdy everyone, Runt9 here, and welcome to the first ever Runt's Fireside chat. I know the very first question out of your mouth is, what in the world is Runt's Fireside chat? Well, Runt's Fireside chat is where once a week I'm going to take 30 minutes of time to just talk. It could be about a lot of different topics. For the most part, it's usually going to be focused on how did the last part of my week go and my weekend? How's the first part of my week going so far? And, focus on just general thoughts and opinions on interesting things that have happened over the past few days. But more importantly, Runt's Fireside Chat is a way for me to engage with the community in a way that I normally don't get to. And by that I mean, for the most part, the person you're seeing on stream, the person you're seeing in these YouTube videos that I'm doing, I don't play a character, but I try to hold myself to a very professional standard. Even though it's not my job, it's far from my job. It is a hobby. I want to treat it in a very professional way. You may have noticed that I do my best not to curse on stream or on YouTube, and that's part of that professionalism. This fireside chat is going to be a more casual conversation. Now, that's not to say that I'm going to get vulgar. It's more to say that I'm going to take things down a notch. Try not to be overhyped and super excitable and all of that stuff. I want to be warm and inviting. And I want to offer this as a chance for my community that I'm building up here to have a chance to get to know me. I don't just want to be another face that you could potentially watch on YouTube or Twitch and think, okay, this guy plays video games. I want you to be my friend, to be invited in, sit down here next to the fireplace with me, and let's have a chat. That's what I want this to be. I plan on these being 30 minutes, and my thought is I'm going to release these every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. That way, if you are later on interested in consuming this in some sort of podcast format, because ultimately the whole shtick of I'm trying to sit here on a chair next to a fireplace is not really how this is going to work. It's more of just adding to the aesthetic. So you're more than welcome to turn off the video portion and just listen. But the biggest thing that I want from you guys is to engage. Feel free to ask me questions. Ask me about how are things going, or give me feedback on how you think my channel is doing. What am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? What would you like to see more of? What would you like to see less of? And I do think that in the future, Fireside Chats will have an opportunity to include Q&A sessions and things like that, so that I can really treat this as another medium to engage with people who follow me, are fans of what I'm doing, in ways that I just don't know if I will ever get to via my regular streams and YouTube content. And so, again, on sort of this casual front, I want to focus on stream of consciousness, unedited, other than the obvious editing of sizing my camera down and putting a fire crackling noise and a fireplace background in OBS. Like that's not really editing. That's just I set a scene up in OBS and hit record. I want to just let what rolls off the brain roll off the brain, talk to you guys, and, just be your friend. Be here for you. And I hope that, through my own brand of positivity, my own stories of successes and failures, that maybe you'll find a piece of something that motivates you or that empowers you. And, if I can just make one person's day better, that makes me feel great. That's why I'm in this. I'm not in this hobby to make money. I'm not in this hobby to, you know, get famous or get popular or be a pro gamer. I'm here because I love making people smile. And I thought this was another avenue to potentially help make people smile. So I've got a list of notes prepared on my other screen, and that way I don't end up spending 30 minutes talking about the same topic, because I am going to cut things off pretty firmly at that 30-minute mark. And that way, you know, it could be a good way for you to enjoy your commute. Or maybe you go sit outside on the back porch after a long day, crack open a cold one, or join me with a spot of tea. Maybe you want to relax with a warm bath and curl up and just try to forget about the day. And that's also why I'm trying to keep my voice low, keep it warm, and you can adjust your volume as necessary rather than me basically just being hype and screaming and excitable the whole time. I want to be in this moment sharing my thoughts with you. So one of the other things that I wanted to mention is I tend to just be very involved in the games that I'm playing on YouTube and Twitch. And at least for the moment, it's making it very difficult for me to learn how to banter, how to shift the conversation away from the game and just be entertaining. And I think this is another outlet, another forum to practice talking more about myself and my life than just simply talking about the game that I'm playing, analyzing the moves that I'm making, or, you know, getting hype about awesome shots that I'm making, that kind of thing. So that's the other piece of this, is I think it's valuable practice for me moving forward to get better at entertaining. I think the more of this type of content that I produce, the more ad hoc stream of consciousness kind of thing, the more things that I do in front of a camera, the more comfortable I'm going to get. I've only started doing this within the past month, and you can only learn and grow so much at a new skill in just 1 month. But so the first thing I really wanted to talk about, and this is something that I've kind of brought up in some other videos, and I kind of mentioned it already, but the type of community that I want to foster. There's a lot of different communities out there, and you know, I'm a big follower of Northern Lion and the whole NLSS crew, whether that be Michael A.L. Fox, Dan Giesling, Apollo Dumb Dog, all those guys. And each of them has kind of their own unique community. And when I set out to do this, my goal was I want to build a community of people who not just enjoy my entertainment, but can make friends with each other. I love it when I see people in chat who maybe live on completely opposite sides of the world and they're just communicating like they've been best friends since they were kids. In a lot of communities, you end up in a situation where chat becomes toxic, or it becomes completely focused on the streamer themselves. And while yes, I am obviously the focal point of the content because I am the content creator, I want to do as much as I can in building up this community to foster that healthy environment, that inclusive environment, that friendly space that people can have fun, they can make friends, they can share stories. Again, my goal is to touch as many people's lives in a positive way as I can. And there's a lot of different ways to do that. And the way that I've chosen to go about it is I'm going to play video games. I'm going to try to teach you about what I know. I'm going to try to be entertaining as much as I can be. And just really try to make sure that I grow things in what I consider to be the quote-unquote right way. And a big part of that is I'm never going to do follow for follow. You can message me as many times as you want, and the response I'm always going to give you is, I'll take a look at your channel. If I like what you're doing, sure, I'll subscribe or follow you. But that's what I ask of you. I want you to take a look at what I'm doing and only subscribe or follow if it actually interests you. Don't do it just because it increases a number. That's not what I want, and those aren't the people I want in my community. I want people who want to be here, who want to be a part of this with me. And to further that, until I get to the point where people are essentially beating down my door to try to do donations or whatever the case may be, I'm not going to accept any. And I know that that sounds a little strange, like I'm assuming that someday people will be beating down my door to give me money. I'm not saying that I think that'll ever happen. I expect it to not ever happen, because that's not what I'm trying to do here. But I also want to make it very clear from the beginning that I don't want money to play any part in this. I work a full-time job, 40 plus hours a week, and I also have my own side programming business that is my primary long-term business venture. This is a hobby for me, and it's a fun way for me to engage in video games more than I ever have been in the 25, almost my entire life, but at least quarter century that I have been playing video games. And I think that in general, growing a community without worrying about the money, focusing on just being consistent, being happy and positive, trying not to get salty when things go wrong, trying not to get too lost in the memes, as fun as the memes can be. Making sure that toxicity, when it exists, is either weeded out or ignored, depending upon the response that it warrants. I was bullied my entire childhood, so I know how to deal with bullies. I know how to deal with toxicity. You just ignore it and it goes away. And if it doesn't go away, then you take matters into your own hands when necessary. But for the most part, if someone comes into your stream chat and starts, thrashing around and trolling, let them be a troll. That's how they get their kicks, and as long as they're not actively disrupting what my community is trying to do, that's fine. And once they do get to that point, that's where moderation tools come in. And so, taking that on to kind of my next point here about positivity and morale and things like that. One of the things that I have been struggling with recently, I mentioned that I have a 40-hour plus a week job, and I have my own side programming business, and now I've started doing this whole content creation thing. I've started running into a situation where I just don't feel like there's enough hours in the day to do everything I want to do. And because I have so many things going on, there's a lot more comparisons between the levels of enjoyment I get out of each individual task. And I found myself losing some of my morale at work a little bit, my regular day job. And to be clear, I'm in a situation personally where I want to stick at my day job for a very long time. It is a fantastic company with very wonderful people that have been very good to me so far. And, when your morale starts slipping at work, you have a few different options. But I decided to take the route of being direct about it. I talked to my team. I talked to the people who I work most closely with. I said, hey guys, here's kind of what's going on. I feel a little bogged down, a little stressed, and I want to make sure that I get my work done and I'm as productive as possible. But I also want to make sure that my morale doesn't dip too much. I want to nip this in the bud before it becomes a problem. And I'm sure you all would agree that the last thing you want to do is get to the point where your morale makes you dread getting up every morning. I've been there before, and it's not a fun place. And I'm sure, you know, just like many of you, just like many, many, many people in the world, getting up every morning, it can be a chore. You kind of have to drag yourself out of bed, drag yourself to work. I have a pretty good situation. I mean, I work remotely for my company. I make a decent living, and I don't have very much to complain about. I'm also, living with someone who has been my best friend for over or almost a decade now, and we're coming up on our 1-year anniversary here pretty soon. So I have a lot going for me, and I have a lot to be happy about. So why would my morale be slipping? I think that's something that a lot of you out there can relate to, is you may have a great life and a great job. Maybe you have a great partner, a great house, whatever the case may be, and you still find that morale slipping sometime. And, for me, that's why I've learned that if you sit there and you let it fester and you let it consume you and you don't do anything about it, then it starts to take away from your true happiness in life. Maybe your job might stink, but maybe you love your hobbies, you love your partner, whatever the case may be. And when it starts to infect other parts of your life, to me, that signals that it's a problem that really needs to be addressed. And that's why as soon as I started seeing the problem grow, I decided, hey, I'm going to talk to my coworkers about it. And of course, you take the risk that they may take it in a negative way and say, hey, we're going to have to let you go because we don't want someone here who doesn't want to be here. But I knew that that was a chance worth taking because I trusted these people. I believed in these people. And lo and behold, they responded very positively. They agreed with a good number of my, I don't necessarily want to call them complaints, but roadblocks or barriers or these rocks in the path that as I go along, I want to keep picking up these rocks. I want to clear the path. And, for what it's worth, I work in programming and software development. And so anyone out there who's a programmer, you know that tech debt is a real thing. And tech debt can really lower your morale. Technical debt, for those of you who may not be programmers, is essentially as you're working on something, as you're building a piece of software, sometimes you have to cut corners, you have to make sacrifices. And usually those sacrifices are in the form of long-term maintainability. Think about it like you're writing a book. And your first draft of the book is good, but disorganized. And so when you go back through to modify, say, chapter 7, you end up realizing, oh, I didn't organize these into very good paragraphs. The sentence structure is wrong. And had I just written the paragraphs a little bit more cleanly in the first place, I wouldn't have to spend so much time fixing it. And so that's basically what tech debt is for programming. And they were on board with a lot of what I was talking about. In fact, I even volunteered for many of the upcoming technical debt removal items that we were talking about. And overall, I left that conversation feeling a lot more positive about everything. And today, I woke up feeling energized. I did my morning workout. I watched the Check the Wire podcast from Northern Lion and Dan Giesling, which is part of the inspiration for why I'm doing this. Is they get me thinking, man. They get me thinking about all these thoughts I want to share. And I knocked out some great work today. I feel really happy with what I did. And even though I hit a little bit of a roadblock, I was able to work through it. That motivation came back. Instead of just letting it sit there, continue to make my work pace and work output go down, I attacked it head on. And, I'm not saying that's going to work for everyone, but after years of suppressing it and not dealing with it and being afraid of confrontation, life has been a lot easier once I learned to say no, once I learned to tell people that, hey, here's what's going on, and don't just complain though. Come with solutions. No, you don't want to be known as the person who complains. You want to become known as the person who fixes. And that's also a big part of it. If you're dealing with morale issues, don't just, and sometimes it is good to vent, but vent to the right people. In this particular case, it was something where I had suggestions for the issues that I was running into. And I think that also resonated a lot more than if I just said, this stinks, I'm unhappy. And so, that whole morale and motivation, and sometimes, it can feel like you're being a bit of a baby, and it's sometimes to get started, and people will sometimes just say, oh, just do it, forehead. And I get that, but sometimes just do it, forehead doesn't work. It doesn't work for everyone. And sometimes you need that little bit of extra push. And maybe this conversation can be the push. Maybe you can use this to find your own push. Or maybe this doesn't help at all. Maybe this hurts because you go down the path of attacking it head on and it makes things worse. That's always a possibility. But I found that more often than not, the risk of clearing a problem up entirely and potentially having it backfire is so much more worth it than just sitting on it and letting it fester. And, in general, those types of things, those type of, again, just attacking your problems, nipping them in the bud, has personally made my life much better. And, along the same lines, I wanted to kind of talk about how I've been attempting to balance all of this. The 40 plus hour work week, the side job, the streaming and YouTube stuff. And basically all this started from kind of a 2-year plan that my girlfriend and I started putting together. Where do we see ourselves in 2 years? And I just got really motivated to start this whole streaming thing. I've been playing video games my entire life. Like I said, at least a quarter of a century. If you believe my mom, she set me down in front of a keyboard at 18 months old. So, literally my whole life. And when it gets to the point where whether you're good at the games or not, whether you're entertaining or not, sometimes you just watch enough of other content creators and say, you know what? I want to do that. I want to give it a shot. I'm not looking for a big break. I'm perfectly happy growing slowly over many, many years because so far I've just had a ton of fun doing this. What it has caused is I want to do it more. I want to put out more than one constant series on YouTube. I want to stream 5 nights a week instead of 3 nights a week. But there's only so many hours in the day, and I also know that this is a hobby. This isn't my full-time job, and the last thing I want to do is put my full-time job in jeopardy. And that's something that I know a lot of streamers and content creators who just start out struggle with, is how do I maintain my high level of work output at my job when I'm picking up a hobby that I find far more exciting to do. And there especially in this case, since I work from home, it's very easy to get distracted, go in the other room, turn on your computer and start doing something. So a lot of what I've been trying to do is treat it like I'm going to work. I, get up and do a morning routine. I get dressed. I put on work clothes. I put on socks and shoes like I would be going out the door. And I go in the other room from here. I have a separate space for it so that when I'm done for the day, it feels like I'm done. It's not like, oh, I have my laptop on top of my gaming computer and it's just that space that already feels like my personal space. So it's kind of hard to focus on work. I made sure that I had a space just for work. And all those little mental tricks that I've been doing for myself has actually helped a lot. In addition, trying to find the time to work on my side business has just been a matter of moving my schedule around. I've actually gotten to the point where I've started shifting things around, so I spread my 40 plus hours out over onto the weekends as well. So I may not necessarily put in 8 or 10 or 12 hours in a given day, but for the most part, ever since I started doing that, I have been ending up at more than 40 hours a week just because those shorter spurts of work end up turning into a little bit longer spurts because it's easier to stay motivated. And I think that is obviously like one of the big reasons why a shorter work day and a shorter work week is something that would be wonderful to see in our country. But there are a lot of reasons why I see that incredibly unlikely to happen. And politics is definitely a topic that I prefer to stay away from, even in my more casual conversations, for a great multitude of reasons. But by working fewer hours each day, but spreading it out more, it's actually increased that motivation. And that leaves more hours in the day to bounce around and do different things, which also keeps things fresh each day. It gives me more time to focus on each individual thing and not worry about, okay, well, today is my side business day, today is my YouTube day. I get a little smattering of it each day. And I think it's been working so far. I feel like when I'm done with my day job, I can still have the energy, I can still have the motivation to go do, whether it be YouTube recording, streaming, side business stuff. And I'm still getting my work done in a timely manner, knocking it out, doing a good job. And it feels good, and it's been working for me. And that's not to say it'll work for you. Again, this is more of just stream of consciousness off the top of the dome. Here's kind of what's going on in my life. And yeah, I've been really enjoying starting this process. And also something else that I've noticed is I've picked up just a very short workout routine. It's something that is just a handful of body weight exercises. You do them in a circuit and maybe takes 10 to 15 minutes out of my day. But I tend to drink a good bit of coffee in the morning, and as pretty much everyone knows, physical activity is generally good for your health, and I haven't been particularly good at it the past couple years. A few months ago, I tried to start a running regimen and found out that running is not for me. I could not stick with it. And so these simple body weight exercises, they're fun, they're quick, they work out great. I actually feel like my muscles are sore, so I know I'm doing something. Then I feel more energized. I actually, again, doing that morning workout this morning, I think helped with the work output I did today. I think it actually really aided in helping me achieve what I needed to achieve for the day. So I do realize that I am running a little short on time here, and I'm pretty sure that's exactly what's going to happen in most of these things, is I'm going to start on tangents and rambles, and we're just going to end up where I think you and I are both ready to go take wonderful sleepy naps in our respective beds and just relax and enjoy the rest of the evening. For me, of course, I need to work on getting this uploaded, and I really enjoyed doing this for the first time. I want to do more special effects. You know, I want to have the fire and the fireplace over there. I tried to find some static artwork, but it wasn't quite working. My tea was getting cold, whatever. But this is something that really think that I do want to do on a weekly basis. And I will probably record these on Tuesday afternoons after work, because Tuesdays are when Check the Wire comes out and where I usually feel my most inspired, my most motivated, because it just, when these guys talk about where they came from, where they got to, the reasons why they do the things that they do, it really makes me refocus on what I'm doing and what I wanted. So anyways, I really hope that you all found this enjoyable and that you enjoyed listening to my mildly incoherent rambling and mild yawning. You know, I don't necessarily think I want to end these videos with my usual self-promotion. So all I'm really going to do is say I really appreciate all the support. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think about these fireside chats in any of the many formats that you can reach me in. And just any suggestions you have, anything you'd like to hear me talk about. You know, like I said, I would like to do a Q&A at some point once I grow to the point where there's a group of people who are interested in hearing what I have to say about things. But for now, I think that's where I'm going to leave things off. I really appreciate you watching, and I will see you next Wednesday for another Runt's Fireside Chat. Thank you so much, and I'll see you later.